This goes out to the memory of Oscar Grant. Rest in power.
Hey, welcome to Grounded TV. I'm your host, She. We have a pretty special episode coming up for you. We had the chance to sit down with two pretty prolific hip-hop groups from Oakland, Souls and Mischief and Boots from the Coup, to chat about the Oscar Grant killings that happened last year and the recent trial of the BART officer that was involved. Check it out.
No justice, no peace. My brother murdered cold by the punk police. Can't trust the system, that trick is a beast. Manipulate minds, wars don't cease. I'm just trying to brave, hate a little fool. Ain't all good when you young from the hood. They act like safari, homie, you the target.
On New Year's Eve, Oscar Grant and a bunch of his friends were on the BART, and they were detained by police because police had heard complaints of a fight happening. And so the police came up. This is New Year's Eve. And Oscar Grant was being held down by police. One of the police stood up above him, pulled out his gun, and shot him in the back.
Let him go! What the fuck?
I'm just frustrated because, to me, the only way that this kid, this dad, a regular guy who works just like people watching, all of us, could have been even on that level to where he could get murdered on a BART platform with his hands handcuffed behind him, pleading with an officer, is that officer, as with a lot of people, don't see us as human beings. You know, like that's the only way I can see it, is that you don't see this guy pleading with you in your native language, with his hands behind his back, obviously no threat, telling you, please don't shoot me, please don't tase me. And the next thing you do is exactly what he's asking you not to do. I don't think you see that person's humanity. It's just a continuous bombardment of, hey, these people are less than human. These people who have given so much to the world, and I'm not talking about just music and arts and dance and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about mathematics and science and, you know, the stoplight. I mean, inventions, all these type of things. These people who have given so much to the world are still, in 2010, able to be executed like dogs because, I don't know, I guess some element in our community which people use as the example for all of us.
In the next week, the next days, when the DA didn't take any action on it, when the BART police didn't take any action on it, people started doing demonstrations, and there was a lot of frustration because the DA didn't even charge the guy. So people had to go take over the DA's office to get him to come with the charge of murder. They successfully got the case moved to Los Angeles because they said they wouldn't get a fair trial, supposedly. But no one complained about the fact that the jury that they did get in Los Angeles was no one was black.
I mean, the history of Oakland, me growing up there and just my interaction with the police my whole life, there's never been a positive thing. And I'm not saying that to just like bash police, you know what I mean? I'm not really here to bash every single police officer. I'm just talking about, you know, when you come into my community, which is Oakland, and come in there and you're supposed to protect and serve, and instead you like get a guy and knee him in his head and stand on his back, you know what I mean, totally, completely have him under control, and then reach for your weapon, fondle with it for a minute, pull it out, aim it, and shoot a guy in the back, you know what I mean, and kill him, murder him in cold blood on camera. I mean, involuntary manslaughter is like a slap in the face, you know what I mean?
Second-degree murder, not guilty. Meserly's father, mother, and sister began to cry. Voluntary manslaughter, not guilty. Oscar Grant's family looked shocked, then murmured dissatisfaction. Involuntary manslaughter, guilty. Meserly's father began to sob uncontrollably. Use of a gun in the commission of a crime, guilty. Then defense attorney Mike Raines pleaded with the judge to allow Meserly to remain free on $3 million bail, saying he'd made every court appearance and was respectful of the court. But the judge said no and ordered Meserly immediately to be taken into custody.
Well, Julie, Oscar Grant's family was visibly upset as they left this courthouse. Oscar Grant's mother, Wanda Johnson, seemed at times on the verge of tears and at other times overwhelmed by anger.
And my son was murdered. He was murdered. He was murdered. He was murdered. My son was murdered. And the law has not held the officer accountable the way that he should have been held accountable.
And we as a family has been slapped in the face by the system that has denied us the right to true justice. We truly do not blame the jury, but we blame the system.
Growing up in Oakland, like, historically, okay, Oakland, they went and imported cops from the South who were used to dealing with black folks. So basically, they imported a bunch of dudes who were like serious overseers. This is in the 40s, 50s when all the jobs were there. Then they were so brutal, like they started the Panthers to protect the community against the police. They came through and destroyed all that. I mean, they murdered most of those guys, and that's 30 years ago. So we've had this continuous antagonism with the police. And as a guy who, we all run our own businesses. We reinvest in Oakland. We all have been to school. We're Oakland residents. We grew up there. Our entire lives, we've been beat on and chased by the cops. And to the point when I was young, I thought it was normal that, we might get a beating, we might get detained. Every day you left the house, I mean, you even had to let your parents know, hey, I might get detained, et cetera, et cetera. It's like running through South Africa or something,
When we have all known from the Bay to LA and across the country that we have no trust for this justice system, that we have never gotten justice under this system.
This episode's issue we like is Reflection Eternal, Ballad of the Black Gold.
You never see happy, hungry people that ain't rational. They blasting through the gates and they attack you at the Capitol. Run up in your palace, find a head to stay to crack a few. Get a taste of power, then they become fascists too. The fiscal conservatives don't know what their purpose is. Spend money on the war, then they cut your goods and services. Murderers, corporate monsters is breaking records. Exotics at $40 billion a year. They raking in record profits. Stop it. How they banking while the oil industry is tanking? Leadership is sinking. Up pollution in the water stanking. Loyalty to petroleum royalty spoil the economy. We won't get it popping till we oil free.
So that's all for this episode of Grounded TV. Big shout out to Souls and Mischief, Boots from the Coup, Zumbi from Zion for supplying us with the backing track, and just want to say much love to Oscar Grant's family and friends, and rest in power. You done been grounded.
No justice. And the verdict is in involuntary manslaughter. Till the jury explain that to Oscar Grant mama or Oscar Grant daughter or Oscar Grant partners who watched them get executed. This is not just music. This the soundtrack for the revolution. When they started looting, I was right there in the mix trying to plot solutions.